Okay, so for this problem, we're given that the sine of A is 3/5. Now, we don't know what A is, and for all that we're doing here, it doesn't matter what A is. We're just given that the sine of A is this, and that angle is in the second quadrant, okay? Then given that information, they want us to find what is the secant of half of A, or A over 2. Well, this is a half angle problem. So first of all, we want to go back and what formula are we going to use? We have sine of A over 2, cosine of A over 2, or tangent of A over 2. We don't have secant, cosecant, cotangent, but we can use the cofunction rule, meaning I know that the secant and the cosine are related. So I don't need to find a secant version of this. I can just do my work with the cosine version of this formula, and then at the very end, I can just flip it, right, at the very end. Because I'll be finding the cosine, and then once I find the answer, I just flip it, and that becomes the secant. So we're going to set this aside for a moment and just focus here on this. So we're going to find the cosine of A over 2. And you have this formula here, right? It's plus or minus the square root of 1 plus cosine A over 2. All right, so all we really need to do, the only trig part, there's trig and there's algebra. Algebra is going to be really intense on this. Trig is not so much. All you need to do is tell me what's the cosine of A. That's it. That's all the trig there is. So coming back up here to our sine, we can remember that in any right triangle, if this is A here, right, if that's my angle A, that the sine is written like this, opposite over adjacent. So if I want to find the cosine, which is what I need here to be able to plug into the formula, I need to find out what this side is, because cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Now, we're keeping this really simple. Obviously, you know this is a 3, 4, 5 right triangle. So then we say, oh, all right, so then the cosine of A is, I'm just going to write, let me just write this up here. The cosine of A is 4/5. But remember, the problem is telling you that A is in quadrant 2. That's important. In quadrant 2, sine is positive, but cosine is negative. So you need to make sure that we add the negative there. That's why they're telling you this. Anytime you see that, if they say, oh, the angle's in quadrant 3 or quadrant 1, just know that I got to make sure I account for the pluses and minuses, the positives and negatives, wherever they go. All right, so there's your information that I'm going to plug this value in here. Okay? So this is negative 4/5. Okay? Now, we're done with the trig. Trig's over. This is all algebra now. All right? So first of all, let's look at this here. 1 plus negative 4/5. Well, that's really 1 minus 4/5. 1 is the same as 5/5, right? That's 1 minus 4/5. And what is 5/5 minus 4/5? Well, that's going to be 1/5. So now I have this fraction here. All right, basically this is asking you what's half of 1/5. What's half of a fifth? And I'm hoping that you're going to say, oh, that's easy. That's 1/10. Right? Half of a fifth is a tenth. And then, so we're still working with the cosine here. And we realize that if A was in quadrant 2, then half of it's going to definitely be in quadrant 1, meaning I can lose the negative. So then this is basically my answer. And let me simplify it for you. That's just 1 over the square root of 10. Okay? That's the cosine of A over 2. Yes? Now, go back to, remember, this was the secant, so all you have to do is flip this. So if the cosine of A over 2 is 1/10, then the secant of A over 2 is going to just be the square root of 10. Okay? Does that make sense? So what I guess I want you to focus on is, remember, you're finding a formula. Which formula am I going to use? And then what information do I need to plug into that formula? That's going to be where the majority of your trig work goes. Identifying the formula, how do I find the information that needs to go into the formula? Once that's done, then it's all algebra. All algebra. And it's pretty ugly algebra, I'm not going to lie. But that's what that ends up being. Okay, If you need some more help, please let me know.